Hello, everybody. Welcome to ETS. Today, we're going to be going over Fridays. And this video, I don't care who you are, where you're at in the world, I don't care what country. This video, if you are pursuing trading as a career, this video is gold to you, okay? I want you to understand that. This video is gold. Because all you have to do is look for one setup on one particular day of the week with one thesis, okay? Now, that day is the Friday, okay? The setup is the pump and dump setup, okay? And the thesis is the taking profits / reversal trade, okay? So, if you see, if you ever see a market in breakout, okay, they start breaking out higher and higher, okay, right? And then they close and breakout, and then they proceed to start the day off and start to pump up high. They break a level. They start to go sideways. We went over this in the last videos, in the previous videos. They pumped up. They go sideways, the three-phase setup. Pump, consolidation, dump. We're selling high, okay, or buying low if it's a buy low setup, okay? So that's what we're going to be looking for, okay? That's what you guys should be hunting, okay? This is a 5-star setup. I believe this is silver. There was one, I think, on platinum or copper that was even better. But all you guys have to look for, and it's so easy. It's like so easy it's stupid, okay? Is look for one setup on a Friday, every single Friday, because, and here's the thesis. Friday is the closing range of the week, okay? So if we have a week, let's just say, this is Monday, right? Monday, Tuesday trades higher. Wednesday goes higher, right? Thursday goes a little higher, whatever. And then we have a Friday, okay? Friday is the closing range of the week. So when the market is pumping up from Monday to Tuesday to Wednesday to Thursday, we have longs in the markets, okay? Longs in the markets. Now, at the end of the week, all the institutions and all the people, all the higher time frame traders are going to be taking profits, okay? And in order to take profits, in order to close out their positions, they have to start selling. Okay? Because if you buy something and you hold to make money, you have to sell it to someone. So you have to start selling. So look for a reversal setup on a Friday because it's the closing range of the week. They're going to close out the week, okay? And they're going to be taking their profits, okay? They're going to be taking profits. That's the thesis behind the Friday closing range reversal trade setup. And that's what we're going to be looking for, okay? And it's so easy, it's like stupid, okay? Now, again, the only issue here is just waiting until Friday, okay? That's the issue with, a lot of traders is that they want to trade all the time. They want to, trade this and that and back and forth. And yeah, you can buy these longs, right? Buy these longs, or you can wait until Friday, favorite day of the week, and then you can size in on a reversal trade setup in the New York session or in any session. Regardless of the session, it could, on a Thursday, it could pump up already, and then in Asia they could coil and collapse, right? Heading into the Friday. And then, the rest of the day could trade lower and lower, and they could reverse the market, whatever, right? But we're going to be looking for this on a Friday. Now, I'm going to show you guys a few examples here just so you guys can really, really, hone in on this because it's very, very helpful and useful to anybody that's trading, okay? Anybody that's trading. Look for this certain setup on a Friday. A pump up, a coil at the high of the day, and a dump, okay, on a Friday because Friday's the closing range. They're going to be taking profits after a market that has been in breakout. Breakout, closing breakout, pull back, breakout, pull back, breakout, and then they broke out again on Friday, collapse, okay? That was silver, I believe. It was that was silver. Here's platinum, Okay, we had platinum on a Friday. Same thing. It's just it was just a little bit different. But the process still applies. Now this setup is not here on platinum. Okay, they just pumped up and then they start to close, come back down. But this is just to show you guys that on a Friday this happens. Okay, with a market, this market wasn't really trading higher or whatever, but it started to break out higher. Right, Thursday broke out higher, then they started to pump up on Friday. But Friday's the closing range, and on the closing range, the institutions are going to be taking profits. Big money is going to be taking profits heading into a new week. Okay, not a lot of people, hold positions over the weekend. There's a lot of, there's a few, people who trade in the weekly time frame and the daily time frame that hold positions. But just throughout the week, every other time frame, they're not going to be holding positions throughout the weekend. So they're going to be closing profits, securing the money for the week. Or they might leave a few positions to hold, but they're closed most of it. Regardless, the thesis still applies. Okay, they're going to be closing their positions. Okay, now I want to show you guys copper too. Copper was the one. Same thing on a Friday. Okay, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Okay, and what do we have? We have our pump. Okay, we have our lock in the high setup. We went over this in the last video. They lock in the high. They just tapped the high. They just came back to barely tap the high. Right. And then we had our dump, our sell high setup at the high of the day on a Friday. Okay. Now, in order to be consistent with this, and in order to, constantly bring money flow or cash flow to yourself, or get paid every single week, is to look for this setup on multiple different instruments. I have a basket of 30 or 28, right? But you could have more, you could have less, whatever. It depends on, how you want it. But you just need a basket of instruments, okay? And every single week on a Friday, look for this setup. This setup happens every single week on every single instrument, okay? At least once, okay? So just look for this setup on a Friday, right? You already have your thesis. Your thesis is closing range. They're taking profits. You already have, and look for the setup too. Also, make sure you have a setup, a pump, a coil, or a lock in the high, and a dump, right? And then hit the trade in the New York session. You can be on the 30-minute time frame. It doesn't matter. You could be like, all right, well, I'm just gonna take a short, right here, whatever, right? Now, what we do at ETS is, a little bit different. We scale in on the 5, sometimes a 1-minute chart. And we finesse a better entry up at the high of the day. But if you're trading on, I don't even think it matters really what time frame. As long as you have a setup on the 50-minute chart, you could take an entry on the 1 hour, you could take an entry on whatever, right? You might have a little bit of a beefier stop loss or whatever, but yeah, just it's same thing on a Friday, right? Take the trade on a Friday. USD CAD, all right, on a Friday, right? We had one today. Look at that. Friday. They started to break down from last week, right? And then we started to go sideways and trade in a range, too. We traded in a range this entire week. So now we can have a sell high at the high of the week setup on a Friday, right? Now, I'm not saying this is the best trade setup, but it's there. It's there, right? We had a pump from the low of the day, low of the current day, right? Coil, peak formation, lock in the high, dump down to the low of the day, the other side of the range, okay? This is a lot of money, guys. 30-something pips, a lot of money. You size into that. If you size into these setups, it could be a lot of money. You only need one of these setups a month to make money and to live off that money, okay? Exponentially. You can live off this money, a lot. Same thing last week on a Friday, right? Just a slightly different template, weekly template. They're in breakout. They start to break lower and lower. But on a Friday, what do they do on a Friday? They take profits, right? We had a coil sideways after a dump, right? A dump. They broke a level. They start to coil at the low of the day level. We're going to be buying low. Take a trade anywhere here, right? Stop loss. Take profit. Start taking profit maybe at the high of the day or the breakout level, right? I would say the breakout level, which would be right here. And boom, you have your, 1 to 4, 1 to 3, whatever, right? But if you size into this setup, you can make a lot of money off this, okay? USD JPY, another one. Where is it? Here we go. Same thing on a Friday. This is just for, demonstration purposes, but, we had the same thing. We had a Friday reversal trade template / setup, right? They start to break out higher, right? And then on a Friday, what do? They started to coil sideways. They started to coil. They popped the high of the current day, and then they start. Now this happened before the New York session, but they started to break down and collapse all the way down to, I believe, almost the low of the week level. But you can have certain profit targets, whatever. But they pumped up, they coiled, popped the high, and they dumped. Okay. This video is gold. I'm telling you guys, this video is very, very helpful. Okay, very helpful, because all you have to do is wait for one day of the week. Okay, this is a fantastic trade setup opportunity right here on the pound Canadian. This was the first red day setup, which we didn't go over on the ETS, but regardless, it's still a Friday. Okay, it's still a Friday. They pump up, right? They put a peak formation up at the high of the week, and we're outside of the previous high of the week as well, right? Now, in the London session, they continued to drop the market, right? They pumped up, they coiled. This is a coil, right? And then they start to break down. Okay, so the initial entry was in London, but the collapse was in the New York session. I believe this was, they had Canadian news or something, but nonetheless, the process still applies. And these are the types of days where you can have a 1-to-20 or 1-to-15, 1-to-10 risk-reward ratio, okay? These are the types of days where you can make a lot of money really, really quickly. 160 pips within, 2 hours? Barely 2 hours? So just look for one setup on a Friday, okay? Closing range of the week. Like I said, they're going to be taking profits, okay? Same thing on the pound Australian, okay? Market and breakout. They're in breakout, breaking out, whatever, pulling back. Okay, and then we have a peak formation on Thursday, right? Then they they pumped up, they coiled sideways, and then they dumped. Okay, now this will be the nail and bail, right? Because we've already started to break down. So I would only target the low of the day, right? Have a 1 bar stop maybe. Boom, you have your 1-to-5 right there, right? If you size into the setup, it can make you a lot of money, really, really quickly. Okay, now. I hope this video helps you guys, right? This happens every single Friday as long as you hunt the setup, okay? The setup that I'm looking for is the pump, coil, and dump, okay? There's going to be very similar variations, other variations, but regardless, it's going to be this. It's going to be this, and then I want to position myself right here. That's what I want to do. I want to position myself right here, okay? Now, you can go ahead and, if you see a pump and we're on a Friday, you can take a trade anywhere here or whatever. But, just take the trade on a Friday, right? Friday's closing range of the week, okay? And, and also just want to let you guys know that you are responsible for your own trading decisions, okay? I'm not responsible for your trading decisions, but if you just, learn and listen, you can make a lot of money very, very quickly. Okay, very quickly. Okay, happens every single Friday, guys. That's all I'm looking for is the pump and dump, like I showed you, or we can have the trap and shift, which is similar. It's still a pump and dump, where they pump, they go sideways, and then they trap longs up high and shift the market. This market will rarely, if ever, pull back, but sometimes, very rarely, they do. But that's all I'm looking for, okay? The pump, coil, trap, and shift, or the pump, coil, and dump, okay? Hope this video helps you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in to ETS. Sorry I took a break. I'll try and post more videos on the YouTube channel for you guys to help you more. Maybe I'll post on other certain days like Tuesdays, range expansion days, and maybe that'll help you as much as this one. Thank you guys for watching. Like, subscribe. And I'll catch you guys next time.